You wake up with the weight already on your chest, the same pressure that seems to arrive before the alarm. And somewhere between the first breath and the first excuse, you remember a sentence that does not care about your reasons. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius did not offer that as a slogan to pin on your desk. He threw it like a rope into cold water. Will you take the rope today, or will you argue with the temperature and call it philosophy? The day will not negotiate with you. It expects you to choose what you will be master of. Will it be your mood, your framing, your first words, your next act? Or will you elect the weather, the delays, the face of a stranger, the price of fuel as your sovereign? The world will be the world. Your mind is the workshop. Begin there. Living in accordance with nature and reason is not the soft domestic animal you imagine when you hear the phrase. It is the opposite. Nature includes storms, endings, decay, seasons that do not apologize, and laws that never consult you. Reason is the instrument that lets you move through those laws without adding fiction to them. You say you want a meaningful life. Nature says, very well, then accept cause and effect without the drama that usually accompanies your impatience. You are hungry. Eat. You are tired. Sleep. You are wrong. Correct yourself. You are unsure. Ask. You are frightened. Breathe and act within your radius. Nature demands you stop bargaining for special treatment. Reason demands you stop performing miracles in your head that break physics and then blaming the universe when the miracle does not arrive. Notice how fast you leave this ground in ordinary hours. You walk into a room and demand that other people's habits adjust to your preferences. You start a project and demand that difficulty be impressed by your intentions. You love a person and demand that time freeze so that the picture you have can be kept like a pressed flower. Montaigne's gentle laugh reaches across centuries. My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. When you do not live in accordance with nature, you begin to shop for misfortune in advance, and your body pays cash for fantasies. When you do not live in accordance with reason, you take a passing mood and promote it to a general. The correction is not magic, it is clarity. What does this moment require? Not what do I wish it required. Not what would make a better story. What does nature, in this exact hour, make possible and necessary? And what will reason sign its name to? Focus only on what is within your control. If you hear that as a speech about resignation, you are still in love with theater. This instruction is the inventor of momentum. When you attach your effort to variables that answer to you, you immediately compress the distance between act and effect, and your mind stops behaving like a dog tied to every car that drives by. You cannot command another person's will. You can command your honesty, your timing, your presence, your boundaries, your preparation, your capacity to begin again after an error. You cannot command how a market moves. You can command how you save, how you train, how you learn, how you become useful, how you reduce your burn rate, how you speak when everyone around you is selling panic. Epictetus kept the line simple because he respected how easily men complicate things to avoid acting. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Make the best use. That is a craftsman's sentence, not a mystic's pose. A craftsman looks at his bench and begins. Accept what you cannot control without resentment. Acceptance is not weakness. Resentment is weakness cosplaying as righteousness. Resentment is the voice that says, "Since I could not command it, I will poison myself and call it justice." The poison never reaches the target. It only roughens your judgment until you begin to destroy the part of your life that was still salvageable. You can feel resentment in the body. The jaw tightens. The eyes rehearse scenes. The breath becomes a leash pulled by ghosts. Acceptance loosens the leash so that your hands can work again. Seneca's warning is the map you refuse to read until you are lost. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. If you accept that half your suffering is drafted by imagination, you earn back half your strength. Then you can spend it on something that pays you back. Virtue is the only true good. You resist this because the sentence refuses your favorite accounting tricks. You collected glitter and called it wealth. You collected praise and called it reputation. You collected ease and called it wisdom. All of it melts on contact with weather. Marcus reduces the ledger to what cannot be stolen by tomorrow. Did you tell the truth when lying would have purchased applause? Did you keep your word when fatigue begged you to negotiate? Did you refuse cruelty when cruelty was fashionable? Did you repair what you broke without the theater of self-flagellation that so often exists to avoid actually fixing anything? If you carry this kind of wealth, fortune can raise and drop you, and you will not become a stranger to yourself. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance guide all action. The words are heavy on the page and light in your mouth until you make them expensive. Wisdom is not knowing. It is knowing what to do next without flattery from your ego. Courage is not noise. It is the choice to proceed while afraid because the act is right, not because the audience is watching. Justice is not slogans. It is the refusal to lie about cost and consequences to yourself or others, and the commitment to live under the rules you enforce. Temperance is not deprivation. It is the selection of enough, so that your appetites do not become your king. Nietzsche, who is often credited with burning the old tables, still brought you this line that belongs in your pocket when you face a wall. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. The how will demand courage. The how will test justice. The how will be calibrated by temperance. Without a why, the virtues are expensive ornaments. With a why, they are the only tools that do not break. Everything is temporary. Remember death daily. You dislike this because your culture sells you distance from endings as the main prize of adulthood. Marcus tells you to rehearse the fact that your name will be forgotten, and your projects will pass into other hands, and most of what you fear will not matter. Most of what you chase will not be kept, and most of what you complain about will embarrass you once you are cold. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This is not morbid. It is a filter that prevents you from spending hours on arguments that will not survive a hospital room. Remembering death does not remove joy. It drenches ordinary joys in a gratitude that cheap novelty cannot counterfeit. The coffee is hot right now. The child is loud and alive right now. The knee still bends right now. When you practice memento mori, pettiness loses its glamour, and real priorities begin to glow. Love your fate exactly as it comes. This is the line modern men order framed and then avoid practicing. Amor fati. Do not confuse it with passivity. It is the refusal to wait for a prettier deck before you play your hand. It is the decision to stop writing operas about weather and to start building roofs. Between a disaster and a destiny lies a judgment. If you name every resistance an injustice, you will turn legitimate wounds into a lifestyle. If you name every resistance an apprenticeship, you will learn to extract instruction from pain without romanticizing it. Pascal, whose mind could hold paradox without getting drunk on it, left you this warning about the empty sprint that tries to fill the silence. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Amor fati is not resignation on a couch. It is the full engagement with what arrives, minus the tantrum that says reality owes you an apology. Your mind is your fortress. Nothing enters without permission. You hand out keys so casually that you think the doors are broken. A headline walks in and rearranges your pulse. A rumor walks in and suspends your day. An insult walks in and demands a speech. The fortress is not a fantasy where you never feel. It is a policy where you decide the terms on which thoughts may stay. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, Marcus wrote. Inspect the dye. Demand ID. Who sent this thought? What is its evidence? What does it demand I sacrifice in exchange for its company? Will it pay rent in clarity, discipline, or courage? Or will it squat and invite more like it? The guards at your gate are questions. Ask them often. Events do not disturb you. Your judgments do. You have seen this 10,000 times, and 10,000 times you act surprised. The same traffic that made you curse yesterday becomes a welcome pause when you have music and a friend on the phone. The same delayed answer that made you paranoid last month becomes relief when you were hoping not to hear. If the disturbance were in the event, your reaction would be constant. It is not. The disturbance is in the story you chose. Seneca's counsel loops again. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. The goal is not to erase pain. The goal is to allocate it properly, to stop overpaying in advance for disasters you wrote in your head. Desire less, and you become freer. The boy inside you hears that as a demand to be small. It is the opposite. Desiring less removes the strings that pull your limbs for free. If the number of things that can be used to buy your attention drops, you become expensive. If your list of musts shrinks to the essentials, honor, effort, love given and received without deceit, work completed well, you stop chasing candies that melt and begin to build meals that feed. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor, Seneca wrote. The craving is the poverty. Reduce the craving, and you discover wealth you already hold. Do what is right without expecting reward. This is the antidote to the poison you drink whenever you turn decency into a transaction. You helped, and then you waited at the window for applause that never arrived. You told the truth, and then felt cheated because the room did not burst into tears of gratitude. The room is not your accountant. Do what is right because you refuse to be the sort of man who makes the world more confused than he found it. Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter, Marcus wrote. He was not being mystical. He was declaring jurisdiction. Your act is yours. The rest belongs to wind and other people's hidden motives. Protect your jurisdiction. The mind that does the right thing and then releases the outcome sleeps like a king. Act for the common good, not personal glory. Glory is an unstable fuel. If your behavior depends on it, you will begin to do elaborate things when a camera is nearby and ignore plain duties that pay no reputation. Marcus ran an empire and still repeated to himself, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." The reverse is also true. What is good for the hive at the cost of your integrity will eventually destroy the hive. Real service does not flatter your vanity. It reduces your noise and increases your usefulness. The men you admire most did the ugly work without a press release, and then they went home and folded laundry. Pause before reacting. Choose reason over impulse. Your nervous system is a brilliant alarm and a terrible king. If you award it the throne, it will spend your life putting out fires it invented. The pause is not impotence, it is aim. The space between stimulus and response is where you choose to remain a man rather than become a puppet. Marcus's reminders are practical. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. The pause is where you edit the estimate. Breathe. Count. Ask what a calmer version of you would do. Then do that, even if your chemistry wants war. That is not pretending. That is leadership. Ego blinds judgment. Humility sharpens it. The ego always whispers that you are the exception, that you already know, that other men's rules were written for lesser men. Nietzsche, who understood both pride and transformation, wrote, "A man's maturity consists in having found again the seriousness one had as a child at play." Children learn quickly because they are not busy performing being learned. Humility does not say you are small. It says you are unfinished. It lets feedback land without filing a lawsuit in your chest. It lets reality correct you without calling correction an attack. It lets mentors appear because you have made a vacancy where pride used to sit with its feet on the table. Endure hardship without complaint. Complaint is a tax you pay twice, once in pain and once in performance. When the hour is hard, do not add theater to it. The Stoic response is not silence, it is composure. Speak what is necessary. Ask for help where it is rational. Do the next thing without narrating your suffering to strangers in hopes that someone will clap. The men who endured genuinely, soldiers in winter, fathers between jobs, builders who stayed when projects went sideways, built a reserve against future storms because they refused to let the storm decide who they were. The elegant sentence from Marcus fits any season. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If you treat resistance as material rather than as a verdict, you gain leverage instead of gaining an audience. Comfort weakens character. Simplicity strengthens it. Luxury is not evil. It is simply anesthesia when it becomes a habit. If you need a delicate arrangement every day to be kind, to be brave, to do your work, then you have traded sovereignty for cushions. Simplicity is not deprivation for the sake of ascetic theater. It is the decision to remove unnecessary friction, to sleep enough, to eat like a man who intends to fight decently, to own fewer things so you can attend to more duties, to choose clothes and gear that work rather than that vibrate with status anxiety. Seneca again. It is not the man who has little, but he who desires more, that is poor. Simplify until your mind has air. Praise and blame are meaningless. Self-respect is enough. If you live for praise, you will eventually perform for people you do not respect to win a sound you cannot bank. If you fear blame more than you fear self-betrayal, you will become soft when you should be steady, and loud when you should be quiet. Marcus stood in rooms full of opinions, and still returned to the only vote that mattered. Did I behave according to reason and virtue today? Did I fail? Then I will correct it tomorrow. Did I succeed? Then I will not beg the crowd for reassurance. La Rochefoucauld's cold observation remains useful. We would scarcely ever be ashamed of our faults if we weren't so afraid of others seeing them. Build a private standard that makes you less dependent on weather. People err out of ignorance, respond with patience. This does not mean tolerate malice. It means most of what exhausts you is not malice. It is confusion, fear, and bad training. If you treat every error as a crime, you will eventually alienate allies and train yourself to see enemies where apprentices stand. Marcus looks at fools and remembers himself. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? The answer does not stop you from setting boundaries. It prevents you from climbing onto a stage and giving a lecture that hides your own homework. Do what is right, quietly. Reflect daily on your actions and improve quietly. The quiet is important because vanity turns improvement into content. You begin to document your growth as if the documentation were the point, and progress becomes a brand rather than a body of work. Keep a ledger, not to punish, but to measure. What did I do today that was beneath my standards? What did I repair? Where did I let impulse drive, and how can I move the keys tomorrow? Pascal's room returns. Sit with yourself long enough to hear the sentence under the noise. Then stand and correct one thing. Do not audition the correction for strangers. Put it in the day and let the day carry it. A calm, disciplined mind is true power. You have seen loud men lose control of rooms they thought they ran, and quiet men hold entire weeks together with tone and timing. Calm is not passivity. It is control of allocation. A disciplined mind decides where attention goes, how long it stays, and what it refuses to feed. Calm under pressure comes from practice under ordinary light. Set your mornings so they do not belong to strangers. Do not begin with other people's outrage. Put something in your hands that obeys physics, a weight, a broom, a pan, a pen, and let competence reacquaint you with agency. When the hour heats, breathe through your nose, drop your shoulders. Speak slowly. Ask one more question than you feel like asking. Then act with the strength you have, not the anger you wish could replace it. You will object that this is difficult. Of course it is. The easy life is expensive in ways you cannot pay. The hard life, chosen deliberately in these basic disciplines, becomes cheaper over time because you stop paying fees for your own errors. You will object that this is lonely. At first, it can be, because people accustomed to your noise will miss it and assume your quiet is withdrawal. Let them learn the new you by your steadiness, not by a speech. You will object that memory fades and that by noon, you will be back inside your old loops. That is why Marcus repeated himself to himself. The meditations were not written to be admired by other people. They were written as a daily instruction manual for a man under pressure who refused to become less than he could be. Return to the beginning and walk the circle once more. Live in accordance with nature and reason, so you stop pretending. Focus only on what you can command, so you stop melting under weather. Accept the rest without resentment, so you stop poisoning your own food. Hold virtue as your only true good, so you stop selling your character for a discount. Let wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance steer, so you stop crashing in familiar ways. Remember death, so you stop wasting the hour. Love your fate, so you stop cursing your apprenticeship. Guard your mind, so you stop hosting thieves. Correct your judgments, so you stop being bullied by your own stories. Desire less, so you stop being bought. Do right for its own sake, so you stop performing. Serve the common good, so you stop inflating yourself. Pause before reaction, so you stop recruiting chaos. Kill your ego, so you can see. Endure hardship without complaint, so your strength is not theater. Choose simplicity, so your spirit can breathe. Ignore praise and blame, so you can hear your conscience. Be patient with ignorance, including your own, so learning can begin. Reflect quietly each night, so tomorrow has a track to run on. Keep a calm, disciplined mind, so in the worst hour you are still a man. Marcus Aurelius did not write any of this to win followers. He wrote it to survive himself. You are not an emperor, but the private empire is no less difficult to rule. It is the empire of appetite, of fear, of habit, of pride that does not want to be corrected, of nostalgia that wants you to live in yesterday, of fantasies that steal next week. You cannot conquer that empire with slogans. You can govern it with practice. Seneca, hard as oak when the winds are up, might whisper one more sentence while you lace your shoes. Life is long if you know how to use it. Time is not your enemy. Your waste is. Use today. The world will do what it always does. You will do what you have decided to do. And at night, when you lay your head down, you will not need an audience to know whether you lived well. You will know. You will not be perfect. You will be steady. And steadiness, in a world that never stops moving, is a kind of quiet victory that even fortune respects.